on Game Plan.
You have just witnessed history in New Orleans. Drew Brees is the NFL's all-time leading passer.
The Saints enter the bye week in style, sitting pretty atop the NFC South standings and with time to savor history.
I don't think it could have happened in any better fashion than it did, and it played out even greater than I ever could have imagined.
We're evaluating the lessons learned from a 4-1 start and looking ahead to a challenging stretch of playoff contenders.
We have our sights set on something even greater.
See how Marcus Davenport burst onto the scene with his best game yet, find out what goals Deuce McAllister is setting for Mark Ingram's shortened season, and we'll take a look around the NFL at the unexpected stars that are emerging.
From Fox 8 Sports, this is Game Plan, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers, home of the best-selling truck 41 years straight.
Uh-oh, look who's won 4 in a row and head into the bye week 4-1. The Saints are rolling and playing their best ball as they take a week off. Welcome to Game Plan. He's Juan Kincaid. I'm Sean. You know me.
All that information Sean just gave you begs the question, can't they just keep on playing?
Just keep going.
I mean, why stop when you're on this kind of roll? Speaking of being on a roll, your quarterback, Drew Brees, certainly is becoming the NFL's all-time passing leader, thanks in large part to the support he's gotten here through the many years of service.
13 years brings back a lot of emotion, or a lot of memories and a rush of emotions. I love this city, love this fan base, love the Superdome, love the environment that our fans create on a weekly basis when we play here. And there's really no fan base like it. I mean, obviously the bond that we share as a team with our fan base is unlike any other, I think, in all of professional sports. And we're just so passionate, and I wanted this as much for them as anybody.
It's fantastic, and I'm sure it'll become more special. But when it happens right in the middle of the contest, you want to make sure it doesn't impact your team's emotions relative to winning the game. And the comment I had made prior to the game in talking with the team was like, hey, our job is to win this game, along with that milestone that'll be accomplished, and it makes it more special. And I think that's true. And I think the players, the coaches, every one of us felt like, let's be on point.
The next 5 weeks will be a real eye-opener for the Saints. These 5 teams have double the number of wins than their first 5 opponents did. You see it, Baltimore, Minnesota, Rams, Bengals, and Philadelphia. Tough opponents going forward, which is why it's important for the Saints to clear their minds during the bye week. Get away from the game for a little bit as best you can, but make sure you come back ready to go.
And as we pause for a week, some themes about this team have started to take shape. The bye week in the NFL, always a good time to relax, refresh, and in our case, reflect on what we've seen until now. Now, the one thing we can unequivocally proclaim about the 2018 Saints is this team still belongs to Drew Brees.
Wide open, and Smith, what a way to do it!
At 39 years young, Brees has never looked better. He's completing 77% of his passes and has thrown 12 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. It all culminated Monday night with this throw to Traquan Smith to become the NFL's all-time leader in passing yards.
So when we tried out there for the 2-minute drive, I knew we were within striking distance. Felt like, if we threw a bunch of balls all the way down the field, if all those were passing yards, then we'd probably eclipse the record. And didn't know it was going to happen on the first play to Traquan, but I don't think it could have happened in any better fashion than it did. And to have then that moment with my teammates on the field, the offensive line, it played out even greater than I ever could have imagined.
Smith may have caught the record break, but Brees' main target to this point has been Michael Thomas, who's second in the NFL with 46 receptions. In the backfield, Mark Ingram has returned, but while he was out for the first 4 games, Alvin Kamara carried the load, answering any questions or concerns about whether or not the reigning Offensive Rookie of the Year can be an every down player. Plus, the Taysom Hill train is on the tracks and showing no signs of slowing down. No longer is he just a special teams demon. Hill now contributes in many ways to the offense. Defensively, the Saints are legit against the run. In fact, they lead the league in yards per carry. And after surrendering too many big plays early in the season, the secondary seems to have plugged up a few of their holes. On the front end, the pass rush is coming around. The line as a whole played their best game on Monday night.
I guess it's been more confidence, more getting comfortable. Earlier, sometimes I have to adjust how I play depending on them. And then even now, I'm able to change styles. I'm actually, working more moves and just trying to be all around better.
Now, it doesn't get any easier for the Saints. Up next after the bye week is Baltimore, a team Drew Brees has never beaten.
It's hard to believe there's a team still in the NFL that this team has not beaten with Drew Brees, but Baltimore's been tough. It just felt like the old Saints Monday night, though. Drew Brees spraying the ball around everywhere, and then having the reliable boom and zoom to give the ball to. It was the first time since last season that Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara shared the carries in the backfield, and they showed that they have not missed a beat. Ingram, he got the bulk of the work, in part because he got fresh legs. So you should expect his workload to increase once their bye week is over.
Now they can really get in some of the packages that maybe they haven't been able to run, and potential not only personnel-wise, but formation-wise. I mean, so you may get a taste of two tight ends, or you may get a taste of their heavy formation with Bushrod being that extra tight end, and now you have just maybe play action, hard play action. Maybe he's going to bring an element that they hadn't necessarily had that first couple of weeks.
He's 731 yards away from breaking your record.
What you trying to say?
Have you thought about that at all? What do you think about that? Records are made to be broken.
Go break it. Go break it. I mean, that's somebody else had it before me, and for him to have that opportunity to go and do it, I'm excited for him. We talk often. Go get it.
And Ingram benefited from so much attention being on Brees Monday night. He was more of a background player, which worked perfectly his first game
so
back.
It remains to be seen if what we saw against Washington is how Sean Payton will use Ingram for the rest of the season.
The one thing we do know about Sean Payton is that he wants two things out of the running game: boom and zoom, as in both Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara operating at full capacity. That'll require the tandem not being overworked going forward, and the way you do that is keep the guys healthy and fresh. Share the loads.
Let them go. Still to come on Game Plan, Saints first-round pick Marcus Davenport is improving. Up next, I head to the film room to break down his best effort yet.
You're watching Game Plan, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers, home of the best-selling truck 41 years straight.
You really start to feel that vibe once those fans started coming in, and it was just big play after big play. And for the Saints, they were moving the ball without some of their normal stars, Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara, having to do so. It was a distribution of, getting the ball to 9-10 different receivers. It was just impressive to watch. And then when you look at it from the defensive side, there was always a question whether this run defense was really legit. They have answered that call back to back to back, and I think at this point you have to give them the credit to say, yes, they are one of the elite run-stopping defenses.
We'll have more from Deuce on Sunday night's Final Play as we talk Saints and recap the weekend of high school and college football, plus a Pelicans season preview, all on the Final Play Sunday night at 10:30. Of course, Deuce has his regular Monday schedule with analysis at 8 a.m., 5 p.m., and 10:35. All of it right here on Fox 8 as well. You get the feeling that the best is yet to come for the Saints first-round pick Marcus Davenport, but on Monday night, the rookie defensive end gave Saints fans a taste of what he could do, Sean.
He sure did. His best game yet, which came on the heels of his previous best game. And as my film study shows, the youngster is growing up right before our very eyes.
We'll start with Davenport's execution against the run. Early in the game, he's playing outside contain, waiting for the cutback. He takes a cut block, but recovers to make the nice tackle of Adrian Peterson. Later in the fourth quarter, he's playing the wide 9 technique on the edge, shakes the would-be block of Trent Williams, and tracks down Chris Thompson, a very shifty player, to make the tackle for loss. But truthfully, Davenport was drafted in the first round for one reason: to disrupt the passer, and he did that on Monday night. Early in the game, he was standing up on the edge, fought through blockers to nearly sack Alex Smith. Smith got the ball off and converted, but Davenport's presence was felt. Now here he is on the edge of the Saints' NASCAR package. Davenport gets upfield on Trent Williams, but then cuts back inside of Alex Okafor and hits Smith as he throws the ball. It was ruled incomplete, but his burst disrupted the play. And finally, this next play shows that Davenport is processing what he's being taught. He's standing on the edge once again. On the snap, he gets upfield on Williams, but he can't get to the corner. So instead, he transfers from speed to power to hit Smith, causing the sack fumble.
Davenport's final stat line: 3 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, and 1 pass breakup. Juan, not a bad day's work.
If he keeps playing like this, Saints coaches have no choice but to get him on the field more.
He's going to get more and more snaps and hopefully keep improving. Still to come on Game Plan, we break down the Saints at the bye week and look ahead to the gauntlet on their schedule with Josh Katzenstein from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune next.
Beat.
You're watching Game Plan, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers, home of the best-selling truck 41 years straight.
I'm proud of everyone responding because we made this night more than just special. He made this night throughout his career special. But for us to be able to share in it, we made it special for him. Game ball goes to Drew Brees.
Obviously, this is special, guys. And I hope everyone in this locker room knows that each and every one of you is a part of this, man, and forever will be. But this is not the reason that I'm still playing this game. All right, this is a special moment. I'll remember this forever. But I came back for one reason. And you guys know what that is. So let's keep taking steps one at a time, man. Because I got my sights, you have your sights, we have our sights set on something even greater.
Nice to have back with us once again, Josh Katzenstein from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. Drew Brees obviously happy about breaking the record. His teammates are ecstatic about him breaking the record. And he gives a little speech in the locker room thanking them, but saying, you know what, we have such bigger goals ahead for us. But I wonder, Josh, is this team happy that the pressure of getting to that moment and getting past it is now behind them?
I think a little bit, Juan, but not. I don't think anyone was worried too much about it. I think Mark Ingram probably said it best, last week when he said that, this is just part of being a teammate of Drew Brees. I mean, this guy's going to keep breaking records. Mike Thomas after the game said, I'm sure there'll be another one next week, and next week it'll be, him going for the 500 touchdown club. So I don't think they really, get distracted by this at all. I think it's just, they love Drew Brees. They love being teammates with Drew Brees. And I think Sean Payton had a really good message after the game saying that, these guys, they are accountable to each other, so they want to perform well for each other, and that's why it wasn't hard to get the message across about winning the game, even though that record was on the line.
Completely agree. I didn't really find they were all that stressed out about it. I mean, they knew it was coming. I mean, who would have had to have a pretty subpar game to not get it? I think the most important thing was winning the game. They played their best game of the season. So I think they handled it well. I thought Drew handled it perfectly. I thought the team obviously responded well. You could tell how much they wanted him to get that record by the way they all responded. And, of course, they finished the game out. The hardest thing is to stop the game, wherever the case may be.
Restart.
Luckily, they were up, then restart, because now you just had this whole emotional moment. Now you got to restart and get focused again. They did that. They got into halftime. They came out smoking in the second half. I thought flawless victory.
And they're in 5 weeks of football, they're 4-1. Is that where you thought they'd be?
Yes, when we looked at the schedule, I remember going over with you earlier in the season. I said 4-1 at the bye week. Didn't think it was going to be 0-1.
Yeah.
Didn't think they were going to stumble as much as they did against Cleveland, but they got the win. But still, we can honestly say from week 1 to week 5, they've played better in each and every game. So to be 4-1, 4 straight wins heading into the bye week, it's a good spot to be.
Yeah, I totally agree with Sean. I don't think anyone saw the Fitzmagic game coming.
No.
And, I mean, really, you could write that off as just a big fluke. I mean, we've seen that he's, been a lot worse since, I guess, the game after that. And then, the Cleveland game. Cleveland's actually pretty good. So, I think the Saints did get a little lucky in that game. But still, yeah, I think most people looked at, 5-1 before the bye was likely, especially if they could go, 4-1, especially if they could go 3-1 without Mark Ingram, which they did. And I think, just like Sean said, they're going into the bye firing on all cylinders. And, even though early there were some doubts, I think they are definitely that Super Bowl contender we expected.
They've been so good on offense, too. With or without Mark Ingram, they have not missed a beat. What surprised you the most about this offense?
Well, it has to be Taysom Hill, right? I mean, that's it's a huge piece to this offense. I mean, when you can add, any surprise, any wrinkle to a group that already has, an all-pro caliber receiver in Mike Thomas, 2 Pro Bowl, all-pro level running backs with Kamara and Ingram, and then obviously Drew Brees in that offensive line. I mean, Taysom Hill is like almost a guaranteed conversion on 3rd down. I mean, just the way that he runs and the threat of having him with the other running backs in the backfield. So I think you have to give Sean Payton a lot of credit for designing that package for him, and they've really, exploited it so far.
And I think he's enjoying it. I really think he's enjoying figuring out a way to get him involved. And I was asked this question on the radio show. Your answer was so much better, and that's probably correct. But I'll say this. I expected Drew Brees to be great, but he's playing at another level right now than we've even ever seen. At 39 years old, he's almost 80% of his passes right now, completion percentage. I mean, he is really dialed in. I expected him to be Drew Brees like we've always seen him, hitting his mark consistently, productive. But he's even upped this game even more this season. And maybe that's a little bit of a surprise, too, because, I mean, he's playing better than I thought he was going to play.
On the other side of the ball, we've seen a defense that's gotten better since week 1, thank goodness, because against Tampa, they really struggled. But there's still some concerns there. Does it begin with the secondary?
Yes. I mean, you lost Patrick Robinson, and still you're thin at cornerback. I mean, who knows what's going to happen with some of these newer guys that they brought in.
You're concerned about Marshawn with the concussion.
And Marshall Lattimore obviously had to leave the game Monday night as well. So, and they're going to go up against a couple of explosive offenses. And I think in those games, we saw the pass rush look as good as they've looked Monday night all season. That has to come around, again, be consistent the rest of the time. So I would have to say, yes, it's the secondary. But I will give them credit this, because I was really hard on them the first couple weeks of the season. They found their groove a little bit. They're not just that wide open hole at the back of the end zone, back of the defense that they want.
Secondary.
Yeah, they've been playing better. I think Dennis Allen deserves a lot of credit for, figuring out ways to sort of avoid those big plays, put guys in different spots. I know against the Giants they played a lot of soft zone to make sure, that everyone had help when they needed it. But yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about Marshawn Lattimore. I mean, it's his 2nd concussion in the NFL, but with his bye week, he should be ready to go, I would imagine, when they return to practice next week. But certainly we saw against Washington how thin this group is, and it should definitely be a concern, because when he goes down, you suddenly have to put in Justin Hardy, who's a guy who obviously had the interception, but he was saying that, a year before, he didn't even know how to backpedal. I mean, he's a wide receiver in college, and certainly I think, we've seen some growth from him, but I think, the fact that Ken Crawley and P.J. Williams have already struggled. You just need Marshawn Lattimore to be out there and playing at the highest level possible.
It's Josh Katzenstein from NOLA.com and the Times picking you. Thank you, Josh.
Thanks, Juan.
Still to come, there is still work to be done on your fantasy football roster. Chris Hagan is full of moves you can make to shake it up. And in the meantime, remember there is much more Saints coverage on our Final Play app. Analysis, blogs, slideshows, a bunch of videos, and you can submit a question for us to answer by using that final word feature.
You're watching Game Plan, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers, home of the best-selling truck 41 years straight.
When Sean Payton arrived in New Orleans in 2006, one of the things they struggled with was winning coming out of a bye week. They lost their first 3 games, but since the Super Bowl season, they've been very good. 7-2. Beating Baltimore will be a challenge, though. The Ravens are the only team, as we mentioned earlier, that Payton and Drew Brees have never beaten. Hey, you fantasy football players, you won't have the luxury of playing Drew Brees this weekend. Hope you've got yourself a solid backup.
And if you don't, you're in luck. Our own Chris Hagan has some suggestions in this week's Extra Point.
The good news is the Saints offense is at full strength once again and poised to be rich with fantasy football points for another year. Unfortunately, especially for fantasy football owners who were waiting for Mark Ingram to return, you'll have to wait another week now before the black and gold are back on the field. That means it may be time to hit the waiver wire or make some tough decisions on who to sit and who to start. At quarterback, and he should be available, Jameis Winston is not a bad option. No, he's not perfect, but Atlanta's defense isn't capable of stopping anyone right now. Winston is almost a sure bet for at least a 2-touchdown day if you're in need of a quarterback. Andy Dalton, facing a leaky Steelers defense, is also a good option. Even down a few weapons with injuries to tight end Tyler Eifert and running back Giovanni Bernard, he has more than enough firepower on his side to do some damage. At running back, there are a few options. If you're looking for someone who might still be available, try Colts running back Nyheim Hines or Seattle's Mike Davis. Hines' role has grown each week, and so has Davis's. He's found the end zone each of the last 2 games. Elsewhere, and though they haven't been great this year, Dalvin Cook or Latavius Murray would be good starts as the Vikings take on Arizona. They're one of the worst rush defenses in the league and should allow even the worst of run games to have success. The same can be said for Packers running back Aaron Jones. Given his explosiveness, he seems like the obvious choice for more carries in Green Bay, though there's still very much a committee in that backfield. Still, Jones could break out at any time, but especially against San Francisco at home this week. At receiver, with Michael Thomas on bye for the Saints, and the Lions trio of Golden Tate, Kenny Golladay, and Marvin Jones Jr. also with the week off, I'd point to some of the same teams I mentioned earlier. You should have added Cincinnati's Tyler Boyd to your fantasy roster weeks ago, but if he's still available, don't waste any time. He's become a frequent target of Andy Dalton's. Buccaneers wideout Deshaun Jackson is a big play threat that could have a big day against Atlanta. Play him if you have him, and if someone was foolish enough to drop him on his bye last week, well, there you go. But one of my favorite sleepers, who's slowly gaining more attention, is Texans receiver Keke Coutee, who's totaled 17 catches for 160 yards and a touchdown over the last 2 weeks. As they face Buffalo and lockdown cornerback Trey White, who will likely be on DeAndre Hopkins, Coutee could see plenty of targets. Reporting for Game Plan, I'm Chris Hagan.
A busy week of football continues tomorrow night with Thursday Night Football. Eagles and Giants coverage begins here on Fox 8 at 6:30. On Friday, it's the kids' turn on Fox 8 Football Friday. The Saints will be off on Sunday, as we've mentioned all week long, but we're not. Final Play steps up at 10:30 Sunday night. The Black and Gold Review Show gets back on its normal schedule Monday night at 10:35 with Deuce McAllister and Sean Vazan. And another Fox 8 Overtime comes your way Tuesday night, also at 10:35.
And of course, you can always get in touch with us using the Final Word feature on the
Final Play app.
That will do it for us. Thank you for watching Game Plan. Thanks to everyone here at Fox 8 for their contributions. Our next newscast is at 4:30 in the morning. Good night, everyone.
Bonsoir, mes amis.
From Fox 8 Sports, this has been Game Plan, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers, home of the best-selling truck, 41 years.